Call this meeting to order. What? I didn't hit it hard enough. I need to practice this, okay. Reggie, the same side statement, please.
Adequate notice of this meeting has been provided by a notice mailed to the Hopewell Valley News and the Trenton Times, posted on the bulletin board in Borough Hall, and filed with the Borough Clerk is required by law.
Excellent.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mayor Kennedy is excused. Mr. Fuller is excused. Ms. Hook? Here. Mr. Mackey?
Here.
Ms. Steeler? Here. Ms. Weaver? Here. Ms. Lennox? Here.
Maybe the agenda for the director of public works. About that. No. Not, the report of the director of water and sewer. Any questions about it? No. Okay. Probably not.
Yeah.
If I'm mumbling the wrong. Okay. The next item is an update on the possible sale of the water system. And a few things to say about that. The results of the referendum are not yet certified, so not yet official. That does appear to have passed by a margin of approximately 17%. First, my thanks to the water team, the mayor, borough council, staff, professionals for all of their work and due diligence and technical and fiscal analysis, and above all, communicate our findings to the community, listening and answering questions. I also want to thank everyone in our community that participated in the process for their level of engagement, regardless of whether you support or oppose the sale. We're lucky to live in a place where people are this engaged and committed to a community. There will be no formal action of any kind regarding the sale until after the vote is certified. We really have to sit down as a team and figure out what the next steps and milestones are in that process. But I just want to let everyone know that. Likewise, we've advised the DEP that, and by the way, the expected timeline, as I understand it, is the vote has to be certified by the county clerk and transmitted to the Secretary of State. I think by the 19th of November, there's a 3-day appeal period. After that, I believe, if anybody wants a recount, for example. So basically, by the end of November, we would expect the results to be certified. We've advised the DEP that expected timeline as far as our grant. So basically, nothing is changing for the time being. Everything is status quo. And our operation of the system, PFAS notice of compliance, quarterly notices, outreach will remain unchanged. And as we start to progress down that path, we will be just as transparent as we have been on the path to getting here. We will be giving updates at council meetings and posting information on the website as we move along. And we'll convene the water team this month, and we're going to have discussions with New Jersey American on key milestones and logistics and transition process. I mean, at this point, we haven't executed the contract with them, so that's the first stage of the process. But at least we want to get the legal hurting. Again, we'll be providing updates with everyone. And as always, we'll be available to respond to your questions and concerns. Now, take a motion to open the floor for public comments.
I'll second.
Right, floor is open. If you would like to make a comment or have a question, please feel free to approach.
You're gonna be louder.
Quite louder. If you'd like to make a comment or have a question, please feel free to approach the box.
I'm not required to.
Well,
Yep.
I'm not sure if I'm out of order. I don't know.
No, you're not.
Time wise, you're gonna be discussing the ordinance for pilot. Can I address that now?
Well, the pilot ordinance is scheduled for introduction, or at least it may be introduced tonight. The public hearing would be in December. So that's the process. You introduce the ordinance, it's out there for 30 days, and then a public hearing happens at the subsequent meeting. So I can just, explain that. And as part of the public hearing, there will be presentations by our professionals, both the attorney that's involved, our planner and our financial advisor. First of all, to explain what the pilot process is, how it works, and then actually the details of the proposed financial agreement. So all that would happen in December. I think it's a December 4th meeting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tonight is just, if we take action, it will be a vote to introduce, it'll be the first reading.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'll just have other questions later.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, my name is Keith Hovey, I live on Lafayette Street. So just a couple, a few items, and then there's just a quick question. First and foremost, when I came out, you're stepping down, so I'm not sure how many more, if I'll be at the next meeting, but I just want to thank you for your service, regardless of whether you agree or disagree with people. I can appreciate having served on a board of health before, how much time and energy, this takes. So, I mean, at a minimum, I think that merits an acknowledgement, and particularly for someone who recently disagreed with you on a large major issue within town. I think it's entirely appropriate to recognize your years of service.
Well, thank you, I appreciate it.
And just to mention, we are going to be celebrating his departure at the December 4th meeting, if anybody would like to come to and attend, because it's been 26 years, so. Send them along with it.
So, and with that, on the sale of water, and on any issue, I stand, publicly. I like to think that hopefully, when I lose, I was wrong, and when I win, that I am right. So, I hope that, time will tell, but that this is ultimately in the best interest of of the borough. So, with that, so leave it at that. In the lead up to, I had asked for some documents. I just want to acknowledge the clerk. I had submitted a couple over requests. One of them ended up being rather voluminous, and Mr. was incredibly responsive, and I just want to sort of acknowledge that. So, not so just privately, but also publicly, that she's incredibly responsive, and I'm just incredibly grateful as a member within the community that when a request like that is taken, notwithstanding the changes in the law and to make it more difficult, that this borough and Mr. was incredibly responsive, and I'm appreciative and open communicating as such.
Well, thank you, and I'm really glad that we took the time to acknowledge, for example, residents from work in the borough, because those people don't always know what has to happen behind the scene when you're an attorney, so you have an understanding of it, but, it's, and so thank you for acknowledging that and recognizing it. It's really, it means a lot to people. And by the way, while I think of it, not to, I still owe you some information on the questions that you asked. It's just taking me, I'm just sending out a draft to some other people to get it right. But I haven't forgotten you, and I want to close the loop on all those things that are mostly having to do with capital improvements in the contract and so on.
Yeah. I just had two quick follow-up questions. One is sort of, when I was looking at the budget, I saw in the budget, right, there's two differentiations. There's sort of the capital, there was sort of the water, and there's a listed number of employees at 3, and then sort of general employees under the budget are listed 19. I was hoping that I could figure out or get the information as to how that correlate, if that number of employees correlates to FTEs, or if that is just simply a number of individuals that are employed.
I'm sorry, it correlates to.
So when it says 3 employees, does that presume that each employee that's identified is a full-time 40-hour a week?
Right.
Or is that a full-time equivalency of like 3 people that work 0.2, so they only work 3 people work 1 8-hour day each? So I just didn't know where I can get that information, or if someone, could get back to me, just so I know, the 19, what does that equate to from a full-time equivalency status in the same building?
That's what I was saying, it was the argument I was gonna say. So, and Jerry, I'm sure you can help us, we have a lot of people that work in part-time positions in the borough, it's just the nature of it.
Right.
Because we don't have. I'm gonna say, I'm a prosecutor, for example, things like that, there's a whole lot of those roles, so.
Yeah, the number of total people are
21, but 7 full.
21 total people, 7 full timers throughout the municipality.
Okay, and then how many then would that be done from an FTE total then for the borough?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I will
Okay.
get back to you on that.
Okay.
I will.
That's fair. The other question is that, in connection with sort of, another major capital expenditure that's gonna be discussed is the facility for the Department of Public Works. One of the things that was put out there was the opportunity to inspect. I have to imagine that each resident who was interested in wanting to go and inspect themselves would be rather time consuming. So I was hoping that we could get some sort of acknowledgement or commitment that we would go forward with some formal sort of open house that would allow interested individuals who want to come in, sort of take a look at the existing facility, sort of see sort of what the needs are around, what the anticipated improvements are, contemplated improvements are, and the ability to sort of ask some questions in that setting.
Well,
That's a
and
good answer.
Yeah, I have, first part of your question, I have no issue. If anybody wants to visit individually, feel free to reach out to my office and I'll arrange the visit, whether it's myself personally or with Alan and DPW. Second, as it relates to open house, I have given some thought to that. Just, given the fact that so many different people might have so many different times that they're available, because, we're here during the business hours.
Right.
I wasn't sure how valuable that would be, but I would be happy to gauge the interest. If there are multiple people that want to come at a certain time, I'll just talk to Alan just to make sure, just from a logistics standpoint, we can do that. But I'm 100% committed to ensuring anybody who's interested in seeing that facility will have the ability to do so.
Okay, and again, I'm just looking from a efficiency
Yeah.
standpoint, that I don't wanna be monopolizing with multiple people making a request, but if they're okay doing sort of individual, ad hoc requests, so be it, I was just.
it doesn't take that long to see it.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
agree.
And so, but that's fine, and so there was a presentation in June by the architect on that project that kind of explained their drawings and so on, and we can revisit, I mean, at some point, I think we're gonna revisit that, and we'll get to a point of actually taking action on it.
Yeah.
And it's, the drawings have evolved a little bit over time, because the architect will talk to an engineer or talk to a contractor or a supplier and say, well, we're gonna adjust this because, this is more expensive than we thought, or this is not available, those kind of things are happening. I will tell you that this is a big process that has been going on for probably almost over a decade, trying to solve this problem. There have been several iterations of it where, we had a plan to do something, and then, for example, with COVID, with the supply chain logistics issues and material costs, and everything, the costs just were out of our reach. And in fact, it's been a process of constantly scaling back what we originally wanted to do, which was not that ambitious in the first place. And just to give you an idea for comparison, if you take the existing buildings combined with the proposed addition to one of the buildings and 2 other buildings that are being replaced, if you take the complete footprint of everything we would have when done, it's about 5,000 square feet. If you go over and look at Pennington, which is a bit larger municipality, their building's 12,000. So this is not the garage mahal, as I like to say. It is really about having decent facilities for them to, for example, a garage bay for them to repair their equipment, which they take very good care of. Every piece of equipment that we have here, every truck, every leaf chipper, blower, is run through the full end of its life cycle, to the point, if it's not safe anymore, we get a new one. But it's not as if they're coming every 5 years and saying, I need a new shiny truck. Far from it. At this point, our basic objectives are give them a decent shop to do their repairs out of the weather, which they don't really have. Of the garage bay, replace two buildings that are front of, and never particularly good buildings to begin with the building of a similar size and well, a salt shed and a 3-bay unheated garage. And add a decent break room and showers and bathrooms and a little kitchenette to the building. So when they've been plowing snow for 10 hours and they come in at 4 in the morning, they have a place to change out their clothes and blah. And it's really, something that several of us, I know Sky Morehouse, if he were here, would weigh in. It's way, way overdue when you look at what our public works department delivers and how hard they work. And it's really providing them with really what should be basic facilities, to do that and to have at least some minimal comfort when they're taking a break. I think you'll see if you look at the facility and you look at what we're proposing to do, there's nothing extravagant about it. The unfortunate thing is to build anything in public. I think public building, it's just expensive, it's not like building a garage at your home.
I did a grant for part of it, and I was gonna say, I was there last week when it was raining, Alan's computer had rain falling on it through the roof. There was multiple places where the bottom of the building wall is just crumbling and you could see outside. This is the salt shed that has, wooden, what do they call it, like a handmade frame holding up the side of the building. Because it's basically falling down and it's not holding up very well. These facilities are, I don't know, 60, 70, 80 years old.
Well, more, I mean, the original water department building probably goes back to when those wells were installed.
So
which is-
120.
that would be, yeah.
So, I mean, the conditions that our guys work in are absolutely horrific. I go up there all the time and they're sitting at their desk trying to eat lunch with water falling on their thing, surrounded by all the stuff. They don't have a decent bathroom. They don't have a decent refrigerator or sink situation. It's beyond time, is my opinion.
But I mean, I think it's important for people to come and see it. But I would also ask people to think about the level of service that our public works department provides. And part of this is, it's not only giving them decent resources to do what they do very well, but it's also having a workplace where we can hire and retain people. I mean, it is so essential to us to actually have people with this level of dedication, and there are other places they can work. So anyway, I've done my spiel, but I hope you think about all these things when you're looking at it, when you're thinking about it, because it's not a simple matter of just looking at balance sheet and saying, well, why is the borough spending this money? There are real reasons for this, and it's long overdue.
And I was gonna say, the fact that they live in town, like, if they can go out and if something breaks, when it snows, they're right there to go out and snow, like this whole concept of not having local people really doesn't make sense because we're so far from everybody else, and we do need people here, and we're lucky to have them. We work very hard.
Well, and then, just one example, I mean, aside from the things that most people know, I mean, I just checked on this the other day, so we have 326 stormwater inlets in town. And every time there's a major tropical storm on the way, they inspect every single one of them to make sure that they're not clogged and clear them if they need to, when it's on the way. And, when you think about that, and the 11 miles of streets that we have, there may be other ways that you could, I mean, if Hopewell Township, the population is gonna grow, what, 40% with all this new development? I think, and again, the quality of service that we get from Public Works, I think is excellent. I don't know anybody who disagrees with someone. I just think that we need to fulfill our side of the bargain or not bargain, of our obligations to give them better facilities. And believe me, what we're proposing is very modest. Oh, by the way, the salt shed is a statutory obligation under our stormwater rules. We actually have that in.
Yeah, you're right.
Otherwise you can't keep salt.
I mean, I also think they're gonna be able to work much more efficiently, and, it's, there's a lot to be gained for us.
Yeah.
It's not,
It's not extravagant.
I agree on the tour, though, I think that's
But I
an
think
excellent
that-
idea, I think,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
a
let's
tour
see it.
in as non-intrusive a way as possible, because I think that's why scheduling a couple rather than people getting a sense of how many people want it, because I wouldn't want twice a week, people wanting, like,
Right.
Alan, can you show me around? I mean, Alan, he's got enough things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just.
He can't run his office that much.
Right, I think we just,
Stuff.
we wanna be really mindful.
Yeah, so, but I think that sounds great, and I think the more people see the conditions and see what's proposed, I think. And really have a good idea of what's going on, and, I mean, I think we should probably, at some point, I would imagine we're gonna have Ronnie do another
Yeah.
presentation on what's proposed,
Yeah.
you know, as we get closer to that
Yeah.
date. And make sure that everybody knows about it, and if anybody's interested in, you can see, you know, what the thought process is and what's proposed.
That's all I got. Thank you very much, appreciate
All right,
it.
thank you.
Hey everyone, it's Susan Flora from Hopewell for
Mhm.
so totally, I so appreciate the borough folks who keep everything running. And DPW has helped me a lot when I lived on West Broad Street and my house would flood all the time. So a great deal of respect. I think some of us are just trying to understand how this funding is gonna work, because we understand how much debt we were in and out of the sale of the water system, right, all this that's going away. I'm just trying to understand, so I hope everyone can just hear the questions as seeking understanding, not criticism. Okay, so ordinance 849, back in June 21, that Deb and David you voted for,
Shall we, which ordinance that,
it was
In June.
849.
I know, but what was the title? What was-
What was the date?
It was June 3rd, 21. I don't know the name because this is what Brian.
2021?
Mm-hmm. It was for
What do you
200,
What do you
2 million.56 million for DPW renovations. Do any of you remember that?
I'm sorry,
Okay, back in 2021,
Yeah.
apparently.
Right.
You guys passed an ordinance for over $2 million for DPW renovations.
right,
And I'm trying to understand if $2.5 million of renovations were already done, or is that
No.
part of this?
Nothing's happened.
Okay,
And there's a grant outstanding that
Okay.
That's
we're
right.
using too.
okay, so can I so now that that's been budgeted and voted for, do we have that money? So will that debt be erased from the sale of the water system? Like, is that part of that $6.4 million that will erase our debt? Do you understand the question?
No, I do understand the question.
Okay.
We haven't funded for it yet, right?
I was just looking at this today, and it's so complicated. Let me get back to you, we'll get back to you with a sensible answer, but I think the answer is most of it, yes, would be addressed by the debt defeasance.
Okay,
My recollection, but again, I want to confirm this because we had Brian Morris, our financial advisor, go through that very question.
right, that's what I was the
Okay.
person that asked that question, so these are the numbers that I'm
Right.
working from as well.
Right.
Because he's saying that a 1.3 million bond was issued on that ordinance. And 1.15 million is remaining, so I'm just trying to understand the numbers, is it 2.56 million, is it one, like,
Okay, I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yep, so I know that everyone on this council is so committed to transparency, so if there is some way that that information could be
Sure.
put out, so we could all just understand.
Yep.
What that 6.4 million is erasing,
Yes,
because great, if the 3.3 that you've earmarked for this building will be erased. But if not, then we're going right back into debt, so it's confusing for those of us not in the weeds about it. And then just in August, you approved ordinance 905 for 598,000 for DPW renovations. So is that all going to the same project? There you go.
Yes, yeah.
There you go. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
So all that's being lumped together to get to this 3.3 million. So,
I believe that's correct.
okay,
Yeah, as of most recently, I can tell you that about 1.2 million was funded, the other 1.2 was authorized.
Right.
And then we have the 600 sitting out there for the order that you just referenced.
Right.
so when you say like already funded, like we have it in the bank, but it hasn't been spent yet on anything.
I believe so.
That's right. So, on the other hand, you have the 1.2 that was authorized, but we haven't actually bonded for that.
That's right.
We haven't actually borrowed the money.
So if you haven't borrowed the money, then even with this debt, it'll be additional debt. That won't be wiped away from the sale of the water system.
Again, we will give you the numbers. I'm not going to.
Okay, no,
You're asking me something, I don't have a spreadsheet in front of me, I mean, you know, you've asked the question, we'll respond to it, we'll give you a definitive answer on it.
That would be
Okay,
awesome.
because
That would be
there's a
great,
lot of
yeah.
moving parts to this, you have different funding sources over time. And you have this defeasance process going on, and some of that, you know, again, I. Better for us to answer that question and
That's
rather
great.
than to do it from the diet, that's all
Yeah,
I'm saying.
yeah,
I'm
and
happy
all-
to do it,
yeah.
believe me, but I wanna make sure that, you know, I'm not saying something that turns out to be inaccurate. Because I don't have it in my head.
Yeah, and all I'm asking for is,
Yeah.
we keep hearing the 6.4 million of debt is gonna be wiped away, and I'm just
Right.
trying to understand what went into that debt, and what's the impact of future decisions.
Right.
Or decisions that were just made, and because my time is up, Debbie talked about that some of this is gonna be funded by the grant. How can we learn about what grants we have and which projects they're going towards, so.
You know, all that, we will discuss once we go
Right.
over that. And we've been so busy with water and other things, so now we can move on to the next step. And I know everybody has a lot of questions about the DPW building, so we'll make it very clear. At upcoming meetings, we'll have a public, discussion about it
Yep.
and all the questions we ask.
Yeah.
That would be awesome, but just about the grants in general, like not even the grant for that, but it's like the grant for the train station, was everything paid for by that, like just having a better understanding of all the hard work that everybody's doing for.
These things are usually discussed in public here.
So I totally respect that, and you know that I've been coming to a lot of these
Right.
meetings, but some of us aren't just auditory learners, and we learn
Sure.
and understand by reading it. And so having it on the website, being able to refer back to it is often very helpful for our understanding, so we can support the efforts,
Sure.
right? And help with misinformation that's being posted on Facebook and things like
Yeah.
that.
Well, and the thing is, I think,
It'll all be in the minutes.
Sure, and
Right.
those minutes hard to comb through, wondering if there would be an easier way. You guys did a great job with being transparent with information about the water sale. It'd be great, you guys, grants are something to be celebrated, have a table of grants.
So maybe Jerry, we can look at like adding a page or something, or.
Yeah, it'd be
Say
awesome.
train station and breakdown of financing.
All the grants that, the pedestrian committee got, like, that'd be awesome to know the money, when, and the things that are being done with it, it'd be awesome.
I mean, the website's in redesign now, so it's a good time to.
Yeah, great, thank you, thanks, everyone.
One more clarification on
Yeah.
grants in general, on all of our budgets. I wanna say sheet 7, but I might be corrected on that. But on every budget we list every year,
Oh,
every
okay.
grant we list,
Okay.
every grant we receive that year is in both the appropriations and the revenue section. So that can be found in every budget
Awesome.
that we produce.
I wasn't aware of that, thank you so much, Jerry.
I am June Schwang. I also had a question, just kind of beyond the Department of Public Works building. Does the Hopewell Borough have a capital budget plan for where this DPW project that you said you've been planning for a long, long time is captured on?
The annual budget, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead, no,
I apologize.
no, the answer, no, go ahead.
The annual budget every year, and again, I wasn't here when we did the last budget, I only came in a few months ago, but every annual budget has a capital improvement section on one of the last 3 or 4 pages of the actual entire budget document.
And
And
that's
this-
posted on the website for all residents to see?
That's correct, and it'll list all the estimated items, usually for 3 to 5 years, depending on the size of the town. Here, it's probably 3. They are estimates, it doesn't mean if you see something in 2027, it's guaranteed to happen, but there is a general plan at the last couple of pages of every budget that we produce, and that's all.
Okay, great, that's wonderful. So we would be able to see for the Department of Public Works what the budget is, like soup to nuts for this project. So what is the amount?
So we haven't gone out for any bids yet at this point. We're not at that point. We're still at the point where engineering and the architect are working together to come up with bid specifications. And then we come up with an estimate, and then we put that out to bid for sealed bid. We open those bids. I'm not sure where that happens here, because we haven't had a bid opening because I've been here, I'm guessing here. We would open those bids, it's open to the public, anybody can come and watch. And then we get to a point where if those bids are satisfactory by the engineer and the architect, at one of our next subsequent borough council meetings, we open those, we do an award, and that entire amount is there. So there's several opportunities for people to see what the proposed final amount of the project is going to be, well in advance of the actual passage of the resolution.
Okay, so since this project was initiated some time ago, is it captured somewhere what the problem is that you're trying to solve, what the needs are in terms of the BPW needs? And then usually you start with what is the problem, what are the needs, what are the potential solutions, because there's usually multiple solutions. And then depending on the budget of the borough to, invest in solving this problem over time, then, it's determined what's the best solution within the budget that the borough can afford. But it sounds like it's like this open-ended budget.
Well, it's an open-ended project at this point, because we really haven't got.
Yeah, I mean, we're
started
talking about, for capital, I mean, you figure out what it is that you need, as you say, and then you figure out what the options are from an engineering, construction and design standpoint, and then the architect and the engineers you're working with try to give you an engineer's estimate to give you some feedback on what that might cost. So there's an iterative process that's been happening for a while.
So there's
And
no
then-
budget that you wanna
When you
meet?
say budget,
Well, I mean, I
Not
could
here.
say, I'd be iterative and say like, oh, I like all these things in my house and it's gonna cost, 3 times more than what my means are for the house.
if you'd let me finish. We begin with an assessment of what it is that we need, and we begin, and then from there, look at options, whether it's constructing a building or how that building's configured, how large that building is. And trying to get some preliminary pricing to see whether it's even within a remote ballpark of what we can afford. And as I say, it's an iterative process, because it's a process of trying to come up with the least expensive option that will meet our needs. But will actually meet our needs. And, in that process, I can tell you, in this process, there have been a number of things that have been crossed off. We just said, we simply can't afford that. We would like to have it, but we can't. We're now down to something that's truly bare bones. I mean, this process has been going on for years and made all the worse by the large increases in construction costs over the last few years, particularly after COVID. But I mean, a lot of those prices really haven't come down. So, you get an engineer's estimate for something, and then you go on the street a year later and you find out you're seeing numbers that are way higher than what you thought. So you have to go back to the drawing board and try to find other places to cut, which is what I'm trying to explain to you, June, is that this isn't a process of, wow, we'd like to have all these things and we have no budget. This is, how do we get to a place where we actually have the facilities that we need to support our people with something that we can afford? And it takes a lot of work, a lot of iterative, a lot of analysis. We have an excellent architect and we've had a number of engineers involved in this process. But that's what the process is.
Yeah.
I don't,
So what I hear is that you have a lot of opinions about having a building as the one and only solution. I haven't heard anything about the problems or needs that need to be solved and what the potential solutions are.
if you come to the facility and look at it, you can see.
So there's
It's-
no
it's
capture, there's no places it captured.
June, may I finish, please?
My
If you
first
come in-
question,
Stop.
May I just finish one sentence without you interrupting me, please? If you come to the facility and see it, as we've discussed, much of this will be self-evident.
is it captured anywhere what the needs are that need to be addressed by taxpayer money?
I think they just went over that. I
I
was
think
just
you
explaining
just
the mission of
answered
the
the
building.
question about 4 times, so at this point, what, you want a report or a study, a written
What,
analysis that
there's a
explains
building
it?
right here, do they need a place to eat lunch? I mean, what are
They
the
need a
actual?
place to eat lunch, they need a changing room, They need, the water department office, when it rains, water actually comes into the water department office, okay? They don't have a place that they can basically repair their machinery
They have the
inside.
land
They have a
for it.
garage that was built, I think it's 80 years old, that they can barely get any of their machinery into. We have a salt shed that's fallen down, that salt
My
incredibly
question-
corrosive to, excuse me, I'm still speaking.
So, yeah, I know you
Excuse
have.
me, you don't actually get to interrupt me while I'm speaking, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay? You don't. So if you'd like to ask questions and give us a chance to answer them, that's great. If you're not gonna let us answer them, then we're not having a discussion anymore.
Yeah, is there a needs assessment anywhere? Has there been any
The
due
needs
diligence
have been
on
discussed
potential
in
solutions?
detail repeatedly.
Where is that?
Where? You know, this is bad.
I can write it down, yeah.
I'm just gonna keep going, sorry.
Don't you think that the residents who are paying taxes for this expenditure would wanna know what the needs are?
If you had attended the meeting here on June 5th, when there was a presentation with drawings of the facility, you would have heard a discussion of exactly what those needs are.
So you have it captured so that residents
We
can see
do.
what the needs are?
Yes, we do,
That was my question.
yes.
And you've explored potential solutions,
Yes.
Yes, we have.
but the only solution that you explored was building a building.
We already have a building. We're doing improvements on one and we're building them, what is
It would be
it?
best if you might familiarize yourself, when we have a chance, we can see the facility. And once again, we will make a presentation on what it is that we're proposing, and you can see what exactly it is that's being proposed. We're not replacing the whole facility with a new building. We're putting a modest addition onto an existing building. We're stabilizing another building that's probably 100 years old. We're replacing 2 storage buildings in the back that are in terrible condition and were never particularly sound buildings to begin with. And one of them is a statutory requirement to actually contain salt.
Right.
And I cannot tell you how many discussions we have had on how to actually build a salt structure that will last long enough.
Right.
Because of the corrosivity of the salt and everything else,
Right.
at the least possible cost. That's tall enough to get a dump truck in there and dump the pile and do what it needs to do at the minimum size that we can use. These discussions have been had over and over again for years, each time having to pare this thing down any way that we can to reduce costs. So this is not some dream where we woke up one day and said, we're gonna build a great big public works facility and then we'll figure out how to fund it. This is based on a direct analysis of the day-to-day needs of the people that are serving this community every single day and what they need to function. So,
And there's multiple solutions, I'm sure of it, that could be.
you're sure of this
Yeah.
with no knowledge of what they do and you haven't looked at the facility, so how do you do this?
5 minutes.
Yeah.
5 minutes of that, 5 minutes of.
So there's been no due diligence
5 minutes,
on
5 minutes about,
exploring
yeah.
I
solutions.
think we.
Thank
Your
you.
time is up.
Again.
Your time is up.
Good evening, Marian Labos. I will start by not talking about the Department of Public Works building.
We appreciate that.
It has come to my awareness that the state of New Jersey has opened a new Green Acres program. And included in this recent Green Acres funding, it not only includes acquisition, but park development and stewardship. Included in the stewardship, if it is built into a larger project, you know, such as restoration of wetlands or removal of invasives, we can actually get funds, possibly if our grant is our application was chosen, to take down many of the dead ash trees in the park. So I would really appreciate working with the borough, the administrator, the council if they're interested, or anybody else in the community who has grant writing experience to get this done. Because there's a horrific number of dead trees there, we call them widow, or like widowmakers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
We actually saw the grant, we're very excited. Gary and I were talking about it the other day. It looks like we can help them work on our parks potentially,
Yeah.
you know, the structures and
Yes.
everything. So yes, we're on it and we can certainly
Okay.
work to include you and others.
okay, I would appreciate that. I've been working in the parks, we have run stewardship sessions for the last 6 months. We have 2 more left for the end of the year, you know, we planted a lot of trees, we moved a lot of invasives, we appreciate the DPW picking up our brush, you know, as well as dumping wood chips, because wood chips can help smother the things that we don't wanna grow. So I think it's been, you know,
And
That's
thank you for
successful.
everything you've done. I know you've done a lot of work working with Sky and getting Roger and getting a lot of people together. So thank you.
Really, and obviously we know it's a constant process.
Yeah, I was in there with Alex today. He pressure washed the bridge today, so we're trying to make that more safe. You know, we talked about getting more mulch underneath, temporary basis underneath the playgrounds to make them safer.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're very interested in it.
That's good, I'm glad to hear. I also know that the ordinance is, I guess, up for the first reading for the pilot agreement. I do hope that the council considers setting aside some of that funding for the school system. Because we'll be fools to think that families don't move into those apartments. Families can't afford houses the way they used to, so they move into apartments, and they move into apartments in desirable communities. And our community is desirable, so we're gonna see families in those apartments, and we're gonna see enrollment increase at Hopewell Elementary School. You know,
We're actually meeting with them in a few weeks, the
okay.
school, to talk about it.
Okay, then I will pivot back to the fun topic of this evening with the DPW. I do think that, what June may have been trying to get at is, and okay, let me lay out my expertise. I'm a licensed professional engineer. I run projects anywhere from $50 to $700 million. Okay, when we find a problem, then there's an alternatives analysis. And the company that I work in, most companies wind up choosing the most cost-effective option. So hearing that our DPW, who is beloved by the entire town, is working in such horrific conditions, why haven't we explored reconfiguring the second floor of this office so they can do their office work without water dripping on their head? I understand that their trucks are gonna have to be parked out there by the DPW. You can't put all the trucks in this parking lot. But like, why can't we have given them a more comfortable accommodation immediately?
Well, Alan and I were talking about it today, and he really needs to be on site, you know, for like when the guys come in, okay, we're gonna do this, so. We're trying to work out some interim solutions. I don't know if you have any more insight on that.
No, but I mean, I think that's, I think your point is important about that. I mean, they're willing to use the existing office for now. But the plan is, as you'll see when we get done all this again, there's an existing building, that has a kind of a workshop space in it, that's gonna be turned into sort of an office area and a break room, I believe. And then that also, they're gonna rehab the changing room and a shower and a little kitchenette, but that's the goal. And right now, they can function where they are, you know, on an interim basis, but it's really why we want to take the building that they're using as an office right now and just use it for storage. And the reason is, we could have completely rehabilitated that building, but the building itself it's worth keeping, it's worth stabilizing it. But
We just put a new roof
the
on it.
other building, yeah, we put a new roof on it, but the other, and we could use it for storage. The other building is better suited to these other facilities, and then having sort of the lunchroom and the offices and stuff all in one place. And then there's an addition that would go on there with the garage bay, but so that was partly just based on this sort of the structural characteristics and durability of the buildings, and you know, part of the architectural analysis. So again, there have been a lot of different iterations that have been examined, and part of it is, how do we best utilize the structures that we have? And what's the minimum amount that we need to add? You know, and in one case, we have a couple of sheds in the back that just have to go and be replaced by something of similar size, but better suited to the task. But the main driver from this is really speaking for people that use the place. You know, what are the things that you need to function? You know, and they don't ask for much. And then trying to figure out the best way to deliver that with the resources that we have. So I'm probably not explaining it very well, but if you were around for all the different iterations and the discussions with architects and engineers over the years, you realize that, you know, we really.
You got to where you got to with this.
Yeah.
It's just, do we have a list of like all of our capital assets and the improvements that are gonna be needed on all those assets over the next period of time?
So I know
Because,
you're interested in this building, so we just finished kind of sprucing up this building, because I saw you said, you know, that's gonna come up next, so we were aware of that. We had Alan paint the overhang in the back, so that's all good. We power washed the building, we're in the process, we just had all of the columns repaired, epoxied, because they were rotting on the bottom. That's all done, they're coming back, I believe, this week to finish painting, so this building is good. The gazebo is good, so we are very much on top of the borough buildings even more so now, I would say, right? And, you know, we're gonna continue to take care of our assets.
But to your point, I mean, and we've talked about this, I think, to have a formal, something equivalent to the asset management plan you have for the water system for what I call our above ground assets.
Right.
Well, there's also a sewer, and a bunch of other stuff, but just that. Again, to be managing that in a systematic way, both from a maintenance standpoint and just if there are other larger capital needs on the horizon, knowing what they are.
Yeah, and your maintenance plans. and
Yeah.
things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And,
we're starting.
and I think the part of that is also because from that, then you have an annual process where you're like, okay, what's coming up this year and a checklist and things that you're monitoring and then deciding on the, you know, all that stuff. Again, I know you know all this because you do it in your world. And, I think it's definitely, we need to kind of raise our game a bit on that aspect of it, and we've all talked about that as a DEPS building committee chair, so, and I'm a short timer, go on, but, I'll be around.
Yeah, and Doug was good enough to start like a 10-year maintenance plan
Yeah.
for a lot of stuff, and Jerry's continuing that work, so
Yeah.
yeah, we're very open, and we'll share it as we go.
Okay, that'd be appreciated
It's a good
because
approach, yes.
I mean, if you follow strong towns, they had a very interesting article about Los Angeles recently, and sometimes the capital improvements continue when you expand without sufficient consideration to the O&M expenses that are gonna follow them. And then you can basically bankrupt a municipality by
Not
not
keeping up with stuff.
keeping up on it.
Yeah,
you know?
no, I can, and I'm a project manager by employment too, so I totally get your point, very.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, I'll just ask, I just have background questions.
Yes, so name,
Anyone else want? Um, with regard to the pilot agreement, that's something that the developer has made a request for, so they filed like a formal application or a formal request for it.
So, again, you know, we're gonna go into all this in real detail, at the public hearing, but it's essentially a process for getting a tax abatement with the notion that the tax abatement is necessary or justified to make the economics of the project work. And so the pilot becomes this, so the way the pilot works in a very general sense, this is the geologist, not the finance expert, right? Is you're able to offer this tax abatement and essentially a pilot allows all but 5% of the revenue that is delivered to go to the town. And then the town can decide how they're gonna allocate that. They may give some to the school system, they may do other things with it, but it essentially allows, it makes up for what the town would be losing under a conventional tax scheme if you just had a tax abatement and you didn't change how the money was allocated. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I understand like it's more or less how it works, but I was just wondering if, I mean, is
How does it
Hopewell
start?
initiating this process, or did the developer say, I would like the
There's a
abatement?
redevelopment. project,
Well,
right?
yeah, and it's also, it's also tied into the whole, local redevelopment law in Jerry, if I, you know, get wrong, but it's only allowed under certain circumstances, but and part of the purpose of the redevelopment law is to actually foster conditions for redevelopment of properties that in some cases might not otherwise work.
Yeah,
And so this is another financial tool to help those things work. So for example, if you have a brownfield site and it has a lot of expensive environmental cleanup that has to be done. In this case, that's not done by the redeveloper, so in other cases, it often is. And so the economics wouldn't work.
yeah,
And you're also trying to focus redevelopment efforts on, you know, for example, sites like brownfield sites as opposed to greenfields, you know, because you want to actually use that land more intelligently. So there are all these policy reasons to do it. But then, you know, the redeveloper says, well, I'd like to, you know, have a pilot and so on, and then there's a negotiation process that goes on what the revenue stream would be. And by the way, that's separate and apart from what happens with the revenue. So the financial agreement and the pilot that we may introduce tonight, and it will be discussed in the next meeting, describes the pilot and the payment strategies and all the basis for it. It doesn't say anything about where that money goes, because that actually happens completely separately. Does that answer your question?
yeah, no, guess I'm more concerned, just to get background at this point with the timing and who initiated the process, because I know in the redevelopment agreement. Kind of contemplated that pilot, that the developer was gonna ask for it, so I was
Right.
wondering, did they? That was executed last November, so did they say? In November, hey, can we get that started, or did they just come recently and say, yeah, we ran the numbers and we are gonna need it?
It was generally understood that they would need a pilot of some kind to make.
I guess
the
I was
project.
just wondering why it's been a year and that we're only.
Well,
Things
it's,
take time.
it takes time, because also it's. And I don't really wanna go into all the details of it, but you've got the redeveloper, and then you have the property owner, and then you have the municipality, so you have three parties.
Yeah.
And the economics of it hinge on
We're all
everybody's action.
Right.
So there's a negotiation process that goes on there. And I'll just say a certain amount of haggling, you know, and it's pretty complicated stuff. So that takes a while to ripen and get to a point where, you know, you have something to actually present to the public. And also, there's also, financial analysis and studies that are done, to support it, you know, because it also captures, you know, the potential number of children coming into the area and, you know, impact on public services and so on. So it's, you know, as it should be, I mean, it should be looking at all those factors.
And one last question, I mean, has the developer submitted a site plan yet?
So a site plan application was actually hand delivered to the borough on Monday. And that goes to the planning board, and I can't tell you anything else but that, I have no idea when it would actually come
Wasn't
for.
that supposed to be submitted in May? I think there was like a 6 month. Said like within 6 months of the execution. The developer has to submit a substantially completed site plan.
Don't think so.
No.
Okay, I don't think-
It's just, that the negotiations just finished, so that's why now the negotiations kind of just ended, so now he's moving on to the site plan stuff.
Well, the site plan, they're actually kind of in parallel, but they,
Right.
no, I mean, as far as I know, that's within. You know, the term,
Time
I mean, our attorneys, well, they haven't raised that issue, but, so the, but I will say, I believe there needed to be some understanding that the pilot, or that their financial, that the, I'm sorry, that the tax abatement, their needs were going to be met on some level, because before you then commit the money to doing a full site plan application, which is an expensive undertaking. So there were two things that were happening kind of side by side.
Yeah, because it's like, the developer can walk away without penalty. If there was no pilot in place, it looked like. But then there was you have to submit plans within 6 months. But since the pilot plan hasn't been finalized, you know, I mean, you can't really push about that deadline or else there's
Right.
a consequence.
Well, and if you think about it though, if you don't get site plan approval, there's no point in having a pilot, because, I mean, they're
Pardon for the worst time.
a little bit. But on the other hand, as I understand it from the perspective of a redeveloper, they have to have some reasonable understanding that the finances are gonna work for them before they commit to, particularly a project like this, because the engineering, the permitting requirements, and all those things that go into the site plan application are pretty rigorous. So, that said, by the way, I'll just say, I don't know whether this is going to come up, whether the hearing on that site plan application will be in December or January. It's up to the planning board. It's a pretty, routinely, it takes a month for all the professionals to review a site plan application, but in my time on planning board, which is 15 years, I've never seen anything this complicated, so I don't know. But I mean, it will be like everything else, it will be out there and available to the public.
Will they go onto the website? Cause I noticed that.
Yeah.
Updated for a while.
So.
Nothing's happened in a while, so that's why. It'll be announced.
Yeah, we didn't have a planning board meeting this month because there was really nothing on the agenda, so there wasn't really any discussion about it. But the planning board secretary has the application, and then carried that forward. So stay tuned on the planning board website.
Okay,
That's it.
thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
I got one raised hand in the audience. When you're ready for that, I'll promote Melissa Cookman to panelist.
I think you should be able to hear me now.
Yes, we
Yeah,
can
we
hear
can
you.
hear you.
Great,
I was-
thank you. I came in late to the meeting, so some of this may have already been addressed, but the first thing I wanted to say was, whoever made Columbia Avenue happen, just thank you. That was the most remarkable Halloween evening I've ever had. It
You're
was
welcome.
crowds. And it was amazing. It was really, and I gave away 30 pounds of potatoes. So it was a perfect.
No, I think
But
it's a really good thing, yeah.
so thank you, because that was really, I mean, everybody afterwards, we were all talking about it, the neighbors, how wonderful it was and how great it felt, and everybody was together. So thank you for that.
Melissa, I'm so glad that I know it's you, because my kid came home with a potato with googly eyes. It's the
It
greatest thing ever,
was.
and I needed to know who it was.
I can't tell you, I could have given away 60 pounds. There were kids that were so disappointed that they had to pick between a pot of anyway, you can explain, Sherry, but yes. So I wanted to mention that. And then this is a technical thing. When I'm on line right now, looking at the ordinance that you're gonna do the reading of, it says it's from the Township of Montgomery. So do we use their stuff as like boilerplate?
Sorry, which?
It says what I don't think we heard you, Melissa.
What's that thing about? Which ordinance you were talking about, the.
So I'm looking at I downloaded the ordinance that you're gonna do, the 906 that's coming.
Which one, 906?
No,
Yes, 906. And on my laptop, as I'm looking at it, the heading is Township of Montgomery. Our agenda, I mean, our words are there, but just the labeling somehow through the World Wide Web has listed it. So I just wondered, did we use some of their like boilerplate stuff as boilerplate? Anyway, you guys can check it out and see if it's just.
That's why I'm scratching my head.
Okay, that's.
Thanks for clarifying.
No, thank you. I mean, well, absolutely, I mean,
Okay, and then I just had a couple questions. Deb, you just said that negotiations were just completed on in some relevance to 57, and I was wondering what negotiations?
So there were negotiations between the borough and the redeveloper on the terms of the financial agreement. That's not the site plan application, that's that we stated, but it's called.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, that's very
Okay.
different.
And then on the pilot program, I know you've said it briefly, and I don't want total details, but I just want to know who decides, we get the money, and who decides where it goes? I mean, we have a lot of needs, and it's not that much. I mean, we have a lot of needs. So who decides it? Is it council? Is it a committee of council? Is it, I don't know who, but so I wanted to know who that is. And is there a formula that's involved in determining where the money goes? It's pretty standard.
So as it relates to the pilot funds, the council will probably have a subcommittee of the council to negotiate and to come up with a plan for where those funds would go as it relates to the school district, as was mentioned by the councilwoman. We did reach out to them to arrange a meeting to keep them in the loop, so it's important for us to engage them as stakeholders. There's certainly going to be an aspect of that. So it'll be a negotiation, a discussion, a subcommittee of council will make a recommendation to full council. And just like any other contract that we agree to, then we'll have to come before the full council for a vote. As it relates to monies that don't necessarily go to the school district but come into revenue, that's just going to be standard part of the annual budget process here with finance committee and deciding, where to allocate resources.
Thank you. So that means, and if I'm correct, the public, other than just the council members, will determine where it goes. And a subcommittee of yes, that's my question. So there'll be no public input as to what we might think.
I would think there would be lots of opportunities for public input, Melissa. I mean, this isn't something that somebody's gonna do in the dark.
Well, I know that.
No, but I mean, I'm just saying that like anything we do, but I mean, it wouldn't be just some line item buried into the budget. I'm sure there's going to be public discussions about exactly what you're saying, which is, what's the best way to allocate this money? And the other thing is, I'm elected, not chickens or anything, but, assuming that, with the water sale, that's one of the things that the mayor has mentioned is that, if we are able to defease all of the borough's debt, which is to the tune of about 20% of our municipal budget, we need to have discussions as a community about not necessarily, oh, whoopee, we can go and spend more money, but what are the other needs in the community that we need to address, and what is the best way to take advantage with the greatest benefit for the community of those savings. And I know the mayor has talked about having a subcommittee to look at that very question, and maybe that's the same subcommittee that would be addressing this. In other words, and it's a very good question that you asked, which is, going forward, how do we do that? And I know when the mayor mentioned this before, I think there was an interest in bringing in members of the public into that discussion directly to make recommendations, because obviously there are a lot of stakeholders. So I mean, it's a very generalized answer, but I think, and again, I won't be here in any official capacity in a month, but I know that everyone's here is committed to doing.
I'm not questioning that, David, at all, because I know I was just curious, like, if,
Yeah, let's
you understand,
process.
just curious in what the process was. And, David, thank you for, 2,000 geological years worth of information in your term. And, you did a lot for the town, so thank you, and, we appreciate it.
Thank you, Melissa. That's very kind. And thank you for your constant level of engagement. Seriously, I mean, on many things, and your sense of humor.
And Melissa, December 4th council meeting, we'll be having a little celebration for David after it's over. So if you'd like to join us, we'd love to have you.
Thank you, thank you. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other hands raised?
We do have one moment.
Hey everybody, it's Seth Saditsky. I was just gonna follow up on Melissa's point. Or because I did find it, I thought that was odd, the Township of Montgomery thing. It is located on the download. If you go to the borough website and try and download the ordinance, when you download it, all of the paperwork itself is labeled with the proper headings. But in the upper left, it says Township of Montgomery.
I didn't see.
Thank you, good catch.
It's the paperwork says it weirdly up
Yeah.
here. I didn't see that. Man, said, nice catch.
Yeah, I just thought I'd point that out.
But not in the actual document
No.
itself?
No.
Like,
Thank goodness.
The document name might not have been renamed. Very weird.
oh, it's the file name.
It's the file name.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
that's not great, but it's better.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Anything else while we have you?
No, that was all. I just thought I'd share where that was located because I'm sure it was gonna send everybody on a goose chase of figuring it out.
Oh, that's right. I was chasing my tail. I have a searchable version of it. I'm like, I'm not finding Montgomery. What's going on?
Yeah.
Never sleeps.
Yeah. Thanks all.
Anybody else? Jerry, you're looking like.
No one else. Just give me
No
one
one else?
second.
I'll make a motion to close to public comment.
All right, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Fine.
Okay, so we have good minutes.
I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Alright.
Great. And now we come to ordinance 906, first reading.
Ordinance authorizing a tax abatement and private agreement with Hopewell 57 Urban Renewal Entity LLC.
So again, there are, this is the ordinance that, well, the ordinance actually enables, I guess it authorizes you, Reggie, and who else to actually execute.
President is.
Whoever the council president, that's right. That's right, to execute a financial agreement, but the actual agreement itself is attached to it. And that is under the long-term tax exemption law, and I will not bore you with all the details, other to say that it explains the details of the financial agreement between the borough and the redeveloper, which would take place over a period of at least 3 decades. Yeah, and that we will have our professionals there at the public hearing to explain pilots in general, how these things are supposed to work, how this particular agreement would work, and entertain questions from the public and answer whatever questions are raised. Does anyone else have any questions just about what this is? Okay. I would entertain a motion to introduce.
I'm gonna take motion, make a motion, sorry.
Do I hear a second?
You're looking at me, so I guess I'll second.
Am I allowed to second if I read it? It seems so.
Ms. Hook,
Yes.
Mr. Mackey,
Yes,
Ms. Steeler,
Yes.
Ms. Weaver,
Yes.
Ms. Williams.
Yes.
thank you. And again, the public hearing will be next month, December 4th. Next on the agenda is ordinance 907.
An ordinance of the Borough of Hopewell, County of Mercer, New Jersey, granting renewal of municipal consent to Comcast of Mercer County LLC to construct, connect, operate, and maintain a cable television and communication system in the borough, and amending chapter 16 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Hopewell, 1975.
So this is an ordinance to essentially renew the franchise for Comcast cable service in the borough. I believe it has a duration of 10 years. Or is it? Yeah, we had a 15-year agreement before, which expired. And apparently there's been some back and forth over the last few months on this agreement, and then it had to be reviewed by the Board of Public Utilities, and they completed their review, made some comments, and I believe the agreement is adjusted in response to those comments. This is based on a memorandum from our attorney. And I remember, I've been here long enough that I think this has happened 2 or 3 times. The franchise is one of these things where it's non-exclusive, right? You can have competition, it's not as if they're getting access to anything in particular. And my understanding always was that if you didn't want to renew the agreement, you'd have to have a really good reason, because it's kind of a,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not suggesting that we didn't, but it's kind of a pro forma thing, other than the actual terms of page of the borough.
I found one word here. Can I just?
Of course.
Yes, page 2, section 16-5, the last line should read borough, not township.
Oops.
Yeah.
All right,
Page
Reggie,
261.
Yeah.
please,
I was wondering if they're comparing that with the township.
I saw that too,
Yeah.
No, but I
Oh, the current franchise
I
fee.
wondered that, but then I looked up and they referenced what the borough was paying, and so, yeah, I did think that, but then when I looked up, I could see that it was just, my
Right.
guess is it used to have.
so it's interesting, yeah.
Well, it used to
because-
be 2%.
Right, right, 2 or 2.5,
No.
whatever it was, and then if it's adjusted
Yeah.
to 3.5.
No,
Yeah, it's fees paid to the 3.
but see, 'cause it says it up here, and that's why I thought maybe they were saying for comparison.
For
like,
compar- I was thinking the same thing,
Yeah.
actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Well,
I would just say verify that it's correct. I mean, I read it that way, and
Right.
but
so,
we're not discussing Hopewell Township anywhere else in this.
I know, it
So
was odd.
it would-
right, so that's a question just to verify with Lisa.
Yeah.
To make sure that
Yeah.
our understanding is the same as hers, so thank you for flagging that. Any other towns in here that should?
We need that, yeah, like,
Very inclusive today.
let's make sure.
I don't know if anyone's gonna be able to answer this question, where it's talked about the commitments by the company that upon request, they'll give like a free,
One,
this whole thing, like one free. Did you see this?
yes,
Like,
yeah,
if you requested, Borough Hall could have one free basic cable connection.
Yeah, the library gets a free one, right?
Okay,
I think you do. Yeah,
Yeah.
the library gets free one now. I believe.
And then you can have one here and then
We
one
have
at-
connected.
yeah, you have one
And
per
then this is
building.
eventually for DPW.
Okay.
I know
Yeah.
that's pretty common, like in Philadelphia,
Yeah.
Comcast does that big time, and for underserved neighborhoods, they do whole.
Yeah.
Areas, right, of the city.
And in the old days, I think the first time I was around for this, they contributed all sorts of video equipment, so this is before things have changed in terms of technology, like the high school
Yeah,
had a whole setup, and, things that they contributed, so that there was a public access channel, and you could broadcast on it and so on. And
We probably still have that school channel on Comcast, right?
I think it, yeah. I think
The
it
snow
might
day
be-
one, and, you know, when I used to have Comcast cable, there was a whole channel just for school district.
Like a
Yeah.
C-SPAN kind of thing.
Yeah,
I
snow
remember
days, you could go on and they would have it first.
And there was some, this room, this is the thing that, maybe it's not, that's kind of passe, but,
All right, so. Maybe movement.
is everyone, any other questions? And
yeah, I was gonna ask Lisa if we can specify the tree trimming parts, they don't make those like zombies.
Yeah, and I just looked at that.
Is that Comcast or PSE&G?
Well, no, it's basically, it's in here, and they said they can trim the trees if they have to, and I'm just wondering
This is
if we can put something in there,
to give us some control
Yeah.
over them not
doing what.
butchering our trees to
Yeah,
death.
I know.
Yeah,
When they did Center
Oh, yeah.
Street, they actually sent a guy that I negotiated with and it worked like.
yeah, that's her.
Like maybe with the guidance of our.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
right?
No, that's a great idea. Okay, so do we have to wait to do anything with this because of the?
Reggie said it was mine.
No.
It's minor.
Not so expensive, so,
I'll just, you need to talk to Lisa about it, I'm done with this. I'm ready to go.
so,
Hello, family.
so. I have a motion to
Yes.
introduce.
Yeah.
I'll second.
Ms. Hook?
Yes.
Mr. Mackey?
Yes.
Ms. Steeler?
Yes.
Ms. Weaver?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Right. And next. So. You still have all those resolutions as a. Yeah, best practices inventory. So talk about the best practices inventory a little bit. And if there's, well, first question is there anything that anybody wants to break out of this rather than approve these resolutions en masse?
Yeah, I just had one clarification question. I think I know what it is, but I just wanted to, the police crossing guard line item that moved it's about 25K. Is that because we added an additional crossing guard? Do
I don't believe
Is this in
so.
the bill?
it was the moving, the transfer.
Right.
It's just the,
Transfer. Let's see.
Did we add an extra ones?
I,
That was just kept out, if I understand what Diane was saying earlier, it was just kept out, should have been paid before, it's being paid now.
okay,
It's nothing.
Yeah,
new,
yeah,
it's
okay,
nothing
So it's
new.
a catch-up payment.
Okay.
Okay.
yeah, I was just clarifying.
Yeah, no, this is good. It's money after all.
Exactly, it was the largest item and I was.
Yeah, well, good, thank you. So the best management practices or best practices inventory is, kind of dry stuff. This was something I think, and Jared, tell me if I'm right, but it wasn't the Christie administration that initiated this as a process. And basically the idea was, they have a series of kind of best management practices that they think is how they should adopt, basically to save money and be more efficient. And there's kind of a scoring system that goes with it. And depending on how well you do with that scoring system, you may or may not be eligible or ineligible for some funding, right? I mean, it's and you probably know quite a bit more about this, Jerry. Could you maybe just give us a little bit of the history of it?
Yeah, you're correct as it relates to former Governor Christie. This started sometime around 2010, 2011. Just for the sake of the public who may not be aware, it's a questionnaire that we're required to fill out and submit to the Division of Local Government Services every year that touches on various issues like transparency, procurement, budgeting, ethics, technology use, and things of that nature. by not scoring well, there is a possibility of losing state aid, or what they refer to as state aid, what we know as energy tax receipts. You could lose some state aid if you don't score high enough. I mean, my 14 or 15 years doing this, I've never been a part of the community that didn't score high enough to get their full state aid. And just from my research, Hopewell Borough has always scored high enough to get their full state aid. The major things that we always hit on are the budget rules, we're always following those, obviously, transparency. It touches on your website, having your master plan on the website, tax relief, links to the state, your codification of ordinances, annual financial statements, budgets, audits, and things of that nature. Our audits have never had any repeat suggestions. I'm not even sure they've ever had any suggestions as far back as I've looked, so that's been pretty well. And we follow all the procurement laws, so just in looking at this, you'll see there's some areas where there's a no answer to a question, but it hasn't affected our overall score. Despite the state's best effort on allowing you to answer not applicable to some of these, I find it very difficult, and if not impossible and practical, to have one questionnaire that's all 564 municipalities get and have to fill out. And that's exactly what happens. Every municipality gets them. So notwithstanding that, almost every municipality completes it and scores top. So it is required for you to read it, as I know you have, and vote on it for acknowledging that you've read it. Once you've done that, we'll submit it to the LGS without.
We love our state aid. especially
So-
the roads.
Just a technical, when I was looking at this, it's like there's a 0 yes, 0 no, 0 not, and a, so if they're all zeros, have you not, is it? Right now, I'm looking at 007A unscored survey budget, and there's 0 yes, 0 no, 0, so it's like that one. I'm just trying to understand how to read the. Like, cause sometimes it's like there's one where, number 09, core competencies, capital projects, 1 yes, 0 no, 1, like, can we see how you've answered these? Or
Yeah.
are those just the points if you,
Well, some of these are core competencies on the unscored survey, so if there's zeros, then I guess it's not scored.
right, so it's. So it just, like, number 09, core competencies, was it answered yes and NA?
I think this is the scoring system.
That's the
So if
scoring
you
system.
Answer yes, you get a
You get
point.
a point.
If you Answer,
Yes.
Yes,
Oh.
and so, but it doesn't say how we've answered each one.
this is just the template.
They're just, okay.
No, and
Okay.
you're just getting the form.
Okay, no, that's fine, yeah, I thought it was trying
Voice
to.
for each answer. I know, it's confusing
Yeah,
because I was
it's
one
like-
of those, yeah, I get it.
Okay, so all the unscoreds are always gonna be 0, it's just a question, and. We don't see our answers here, but these are, yeah,
Just say that. It's
we just trust that Jerry knew how to answer these, and so, thank you.
And with the CFO as well. Didn't work.
Right.
She did a heck of a lot of work on it.
Yeah,
I so some of them are
Well,
unscored.
thank you, I appreciate it. And if it's a good exercise to go through, just to think about these things and. Yeah. All right, so, that said, I will entertain a motion to approve resolutions.
I'll move.
Why did you say 2024-111?
So I can change 4 to.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Oh, there it is. Oh, that's the title. Yeah, right. 2025, 111 through 2025.
One mistake Reggie's made.
I'm sorry.
Number in there too.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna make it a 5.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you. Second.
Second.
Okay.
Ms. Hook?
Yes.
Mr. Maggie?
Yes.
Ms. Steeler?
Yes.
Ms. Weaver?
Yeah.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Next on the agenda is a motion to complete claims for payment.
Anybody have anything you want to call out? I'll motion them.
One second.
Ms. Hook?
Yes.
Mr. Mackey?
Yes.
Ms. Steeler?
Yes.
Ms. Weaver?
Yes.
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Okay, liaison report. Who wants to go first?
It's unbalanced, so you should.
Heidi.
Sure.
Okay.
So the, Hopewell Borough / Hopewell Valley Green Team, I am very pleased to report that our Sustainable Jersey grant has been completed and the final report has been submitted. The last two activities that we had as a part of that were the printing of an educational brochure on composting, which, yeah, I have it, oh, here we go. That the Record Master Gardeners did, but we had it, printed, it is available in Borough Hall, and it will also be at our farmers market events and other educational events we do, and it is at the library as well. We also were able to purchase native plants for Gazebo Park. A special thanks to Marion Labus, who is, she left, but she helped us with the plant selection and getting them, picking them up at Nectar's and coordinating with Green Team volunteers to get them planted in the park. So we're very grateful for that assistance. The Green Team also hosted a green gathering where we discussed possible next steps in recycling. Thank you to Joanne Hell for organizing the event, and to Sherry, who shared a lot of great specific information about a new TerraCycle initiative. And so just stay tuned for conversations. Our final farmers market tent of the season will be this Sunday from 9 to 1. You can find a list of everything that we accept for hard to recycle items on the Hopewell Valley Green Team social media and website. And as always, we welcome new volunteers. We meet the first Wednesday of the month from 7 to 8 p.m. at the Little Red Library, Hopewell Public Library. And our next meeting is December 3rd. And just on behalf of Downtown Hopewell, I want to say a special thanks to Jerry and to DPW who will be doing the work. We put in a request this year to get the hanging holiday decorations up before Thanksgiving. And so thank you, because I see that that is on the schedule, and that is really appreciated, because then we'll be ready for that Black Friday / Small Business Saturday kind of kickoff of the holiday shopping season, which is really nice. So thank you.
Okay, the library board met last night. I wanted to share the news that they have a survey. They've been holding public meetings at the library for different demographic groups. You know, they had high school kids, young kids, seniors, all that kind of stuff. They haven't had as much of a participation rate as they would like. So if anybody is interested, please go onto the library website, which is a new website, by the way, and much better than it has been in past years. And take the survey. It's basically just a way to let the library know what you're looking for as far as events, programs. They do an amazing job, but you know, they would like more input if you're interested. The recreation committee, we had that mentioned a few times. Everybody's very happy about the way Halloween went, and now we move on to the holiday events that happen here. But I think everybody knows about them. You know, the Santa, Operation Santa, and the tree lighting. December 6th is the big one. We've got the library open house, the museum holiday tea, the Old Baptist Meeting House open house, and the tree lighting all in one day. So December 6th, mark your calendars, big day in the borough.
And that will be the holiday passport too for downtown.
Okay.
Will also be that weekend.
Wonderful, thanks. Next year maybe you can tell us.
Yes, we will get you your stuff.
Yeah, that's great. November 10th. The library is partnering with the police and Mike Gray from Sourwood Cycles to put on an e-bike and e-scooter safety event at the Presbyterian Church.
That's important.
Yeah, because as Krista knows, there's a lot of issues with e-bikes that can be modified, and you have kids that buy them and sneak modifying behind their parents' back, and they can go anywhere between 60 and 80 miles an hour, which is very scary. Thinking about a 10-year-old or a 13-year-old out there with a modified e-bike. The dongles and the chips that you can buy on Amazon to modify them are specifically made to hide them from your parents' gaze, so you can get away with this. Very scary. So
And to the brakes on those bikes, they're not designed for that,
no.
aside from the fact that
No.
we don't get that.
So basically it's just an informative session bribed with pizza and gifts to get the kids to come and learn about this, but also to educate parents, because you know, holiday buying season is coming up. Kids are going to ask for e-bikes, so this way parents can make informed decisions. So Dr. Reese sent out a blast to all of the, did you get it as a school? Trees. I just called it wrong name, sorry. To all of the parents in this school district, so hopefully we'll have better population. Thank you. Personnel committee, we have a new public works person that started, working out very well. Giovanni. And, I think that's everything. Thank you.
Fire department made 38 calls last month, EMS made 44. And the referendum passed for us to split costs with the township for new ambulance, so that is great. And they finally, got certified that they can start billing, which is, it's soft billing, so if you can pay, you can pay, but your insurance company might pay. I hope no one needs ambulance services, but it's a big deal for them because it's
That's a great
all,
way to do it.
yeah, volunteer donation based. Senior advisory, group got a preview of the new senior center and community center being built over in the township. Back behind ShopRite over there. It's huge. It's very
Yeah.
cool. It's like a whole YMCA and senior center attached to it, so. We couldn't take pictures, but it's exciting. I think it's gonna be really nice.
Yeah.
Nice thing for the town. EDC had no meeting once again, so unfortunately no update. And Shade Tree, continue to plant some trees when the ground is soft enough. And, thank you to everyone who is submitting permits when you have to remove a tree, so we appreciate that. And we are continuing work on our forestry plan and Tree City, renewal, thanks to Jerry, and Beth hasn't gotten roped into it yet, but she knows.
All right.
Thank you. Great.
Yeah, so I wasn't able to attend the meeting, but Jerry and Ryan had a Safe Routes to School grant kickoff meeting with the design team. As I mentioned before, the original grant was worth $1.51 million. Now we have an additional up to $750,000 for design funding alone. So that is what we're at the beginning of the beginning, basically.
So that's your soft costs on that, and the 1.5 is for the actual
Yeah,
construction?
yeah,
Wow,
exactly.
because usually that's the fine print that gets you.
Yeah.
The soft costs, so.
I mean, however, it's still federal money, so it's going to be slow going. Yeah.
Grab it one.
Yeah, and I guess, I don't know, there's, on the Facebook, there was something about like, I didn't write the grant or something, which is interesting. I wish someone had helped me write that grant because I had to get bangs because I can't afford Botox from the stress. If
You did write the grant.
yeah, I mean, it was a very stressful process, months of my life, good lord. But again, we're finally getting it started, we're getting it through, so I'm just so excited about that. Monday, I met with the Mercer County Vision Zero Steering Committee. And this is going to be a county-wide policy to improve pedestrian and bike safety. This is important for the borough, just because we have many county roads that run through our borough, and just a small municipality having that representation there and having a seat at the table is important. And again, it opens us up to more funding and just help from our neighbors. We also have the Complete Streets Summit coming up in April. And that again is a statewide initiative, and this is going to be focusing on complete and green streets. Actually, the topic of e-bikes came up during the meeting, and we kind of said that needs to be its full own summit. Like, we need to have a separate, because it is just such a huge issue, and it's
It
so
is, yeah.
new, and nobody really knows
Right.
exactly how to handle it.
Yeah, we
So-
said that, right, then, yeah.
yeah, and the borough itself is working towards doing our own complete and green streets policy, which is really important for us to upgrade that from 2012, which was the original complete streets policy here, just because a lot of funding now requires that you have that updated, upgraded, complete and green streets policy, but it is difficult for smaller municipalities to do that. So we've also been in talks with the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission to see about partnering with them just to get that assistance. Because we don't have the in-house engineering and planning that the larger municipalities do have. And then tomorrow, NJDOT is meeting to discuss statewide bike and pedestrian safety policy. So very similar to county, we don't have state roads in the borough. They do provide a lot of the funding, seeing as how the federal funding is not only hard to get, but very slow moving. So having a seat at the table at these meetings is just super important, especially for smaller municipalities. And I'm gonna have to defer to Jerry on this because the Greenwood Traffic Time Project is going in tomorrow. All right, so,
And Alan confirmed that today.
all
And
right,
I saw him, but
And this is gonna be super exciting. This is the first initiative like this that we're doing in the borough, and I just really hopeful that when it does work out, we can go to the county and say, look, this is working here, because Greenwood is one of the only entrances and exits to the borough that is not actually a county road, it's a municipal road. That is why we chose this location. Once it is successful, we want to use that, spread it out, because these are supposed to be, it's gonna say fast, inexpensive and fast projects to implement. This
Right.
one has been a bit slower, but still not expensive. So that is a good start for us there. And lastly, we will be having our first grade field trip coming up soon to Borough Hall. Parents from HES come and learn about what it is that we do here and meet our clerk and our administrator and get to sit up here on the dais and pass some model legislation, and it's super fun. I think.
It's very cute, very cute, we'll be there.
Excellent.
What about you?
Thank you. Okay, well, Anthony Fuller isn't here, but I have a report from him. I'm just gonna read that, so people may, up to. He said the Board of Health met on Wednesday, October 29th. The health officer would like to remind everyone that on November 15th, there'll be a free rabies vaccination clinic at the train station in Hopewell between the hours of 9 a.m. and 12 noon, and it's open to all Hopewell Valley residents for pets. And proof of vaccination will be provided and used for licensing. There are similar events taking place in the township on the 22nd of November and in Pennington on December 6th. Second item he has, there's a memorandum of understanding with the Capitol Health regarding health education. It's been fully executed. The Capitol team is a bit overstretched, he said, right now, so maybe sometime for Friday, the programming is in place. And third, there's currently no major pattern or outbreak of COVID infections in the region. There are also no reported measles outbreaks, although the state recently gave notice of potential exposure in Norfolk. So that's Anthony's report. And mine's gonna be shorter than the mayor's, so I'm gonna get the mayor's after, so mine, I mean, we've talked mostly about that. Our October 24th PFAS monitoring results for well number 4 remain below the state maximum contaminant level, so that's over 3 years. And the public notices are due to go out by November 24th. I can't tell you how much we will all look forward to not having to do those anymore. Exactly. And we had, well, actually, I'll keep that in the mayor's report. That's actually all I have on water that we haven't talked about. So the mayor's report, and that's it, something that's a little bit with that pipes, but anyway. Veterans Day ceremony is Saturday at 11 a.m. at Multi Park. Right?
Yeah, we're going.
Sure, yeah, there you go.
I'll go.
Oh, excellent, good. And he said Saturday mayor's coffee hours will be Saturday, November 15th at 9 a.m. Third Saturday. The borough received an additional payment on our PFAS class action litigation. As he said, every bit helps. Of course, this was about $10,000. So that's a good thing. We had a mediation session with Fair Share last week over our COA plan, and he's hopeful for a resolution. Not resolved yet, but there was some movement. Borough's considering participating in a regional stormwater initiative led by Montgomery Township, currently waiting on final costs and grant availability, but it could be in the $10,000 range. And will likely offset some of the costs that things we would be required to do for stormwater compliance. They want to extend his thanks to the Hopewell Township Police Department and the Hopewell Fire EMS and Hopewell Valley Office of Emergency Management and all the volunteers and families. We made our first Halloween event on Columbia a success. And Ryan and Deb gave out 600 glow stick bracelets and as much candy, he said.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about the borough handing out candy to all these kids. There might be something nefarious going on there. Trying to influence them. So, I thought it was very cute, and you have the tent and everything up. I didn't see it.
No, the tent was too dangerous.
Oh, because of the wind.
It was like what, 30-mile-an-hour gusts or something, it was insane.
Yeah.
We just had a table, Sherry let us have a table that set up on the hotel, and so it was great.
Annex.
So,
The annex,
Yeah.
exactly.
so we had, the buildings and grounds, et cetera, had a, the mayor had a meeting with the New Jersey Infrastructure Bank. This is probably our fourth or fifth meeting. We had several over the years dealing with specifically with water. And in this case, we were actually interested in talking to them because we were looking at infiltration and inflow in a sewer collection system, which is an issue because basically you have stormwater that's clean that's going into your sewer system and then being treated. So we are engaged in a plan. We have a proposal for a sort of comprehensive analysis of the system to look for sources of I&I. And then the question was, once we find out the scope of the repairs that we need, you know, depending on how large it is, we might be interested in taking advantage of low interest loans or potentially other resources from the infrastructure bank. So that was a nice conversation. And we also have money available potentially for stormwater resilience projects as well, which is another path that we really need to go down.
Yeah.
And look at carefully, and one I hope to be involved in as a civilian, if you'll have me.
Please.
Along with the I&I, maybe we're a fine line between helping and meddling, so you know, people have to let you know. You know, but so I asked a question when we were online about their funding of the ISAC and how it relates to federal funding and grants. And they said, well, basically all of our money for the next 2 years is coming from the bipartisan infrastructure law. And when that expires, there might be a transition period where there's some funds, but after that, they just don't know. And so it just adds to the whole uncertainty over funding, because that's the IBank has been kind of a rock for a lot of these infrastructure projects.
Right.
Not just low interest loans, but it's a revolving fund, but so anyway, I guess that's what we knew, but it was just into 2 years, so you better move fast, I think.
Yeah.
Looking for funds in that direction. And I believe that is all. Oh, no, I'm sorry, I missed the mayor had more comments, forgive me. Mayor's breakfast, October 17th was an excellent event. Congrats to Strive PTO on being honored this year, and thanks for their fantastic work towards supporting inclusion in our district. And finally, congratulations to the Hopewell Township Police Department and their victory Sunday over the fire departments in the annual charity football game. I missed that one. Thanks to everyone in Hopewell who participated in the day of service. He said,
Nice.
on behalf of the mayor. So with that, we now open up. Oh, I'm sorry, forgive me, Gary, I just stepped all over your, I'm happy with the I'm a novice doing this.
Nothing important.
No, it's very important.
Several of the items I was gonna mention were already mentioned, so I'm just not gonna repeat them, but you know, Greenwood starts tomorrow at Safe Routes to School meeting, the Comcast, which I wrote in my report. I wasn't sure we would have it tonight, which is why it was in my report, and the school visit, which I'm looking forward to. Separately, as it relates to the best practices inventory in response to the question regarding the scoring. So the email I sent you all on October 23rd, actually was this with the scoring, but this ended up on the agenda. So there was some just inadvertent there. So you do have the scoring in that October 23rd email, and you'll see the yes and the no to all the questions. The library is in the process of being repaired as it relates to the gutters. We were not sure if we were gonna have the budgeted funds in building and grounds to do that this year. It looks like we're gonna have money left over to do it. So I'm authorizing that work consistent with what's already been budgeted. Just a quick comment on Hopewell 57, because it was a question related to process there. If anybody goes on our website, they'll actually see a very detailed process set forth for the redevelopment plan, area redevelopment, and how that whole process starts from start to finish. So as people get ready to come to the public hearing, reading that in advance I would suggest would be very helpful. The grant that Ms. Lovis mentioned earlier, I had the opportunity to talk to the councilwoman about that grant. The deadline for that grant is in February. There's going to be a virtual session in November, which I'll be attending. And then the state's having an open house where you can come in and ask any more detailed questions you have in December. And my intention is to go to that as well in the event I do have any questions about that virtual event. Councilwoman Hook Then I discussed the forestry plan, that's in process. I'm reaching out to several consultants that deal with that. The state certifies various arborists and consultants that can help you with that plan. So I have that list and I'm in the process of reaching out. We talked about a tree that was possibly problematic. I did reach out to that homeowner and I'm waiting to hear back on what their plans are on that. And I believe that is all I have for you in addition to what's in the report. As always, if you have any questions, I'll entertain them now or every time you see fit. Thank you.
Yeah.
Take a motion to open the floor.
That's not good.
All right. Do we have anyone in the room who'd like to speak, ask a question?
Is this the public comment again?
Yes,
Yes.
yep.
All right.
Gotta say your name again.
All right, I don't wanna beat a dead horse, but I pulled up the redevelopment agreement.
Yeah.
So in section 501, it talks about the tax abatements where the borough acknowledges and agrees that the redeveloper will be submitting an application. And then it, down at the bottom, it says the town doesn't have to approve it, but if they don't, the redeveloper can terminate it. So you don't have to get it to me now, but I was just hoping to find out when or where that application was submitted. The application to the borough. And
No,
then
no, try, that's the site plan application?
that's for the tax abatement.
Oh, for the tax abatement. Okay, that was submitted, Jerry, we got the originals of that, it was at least 2 or 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
Was it?
Right, yeah.
I, everything was in such a blur the last few weeks, that I remember when we got it.
Within the last month. How about
Yeah,
that? Within the last month.
Within the last.
Yeah.
And then is that the site plan date, that's in section 301. Says within 6 months of the effective date of this agreement, the redeveloper shall file with the planning board a reasonably complete application for preliminary and final site plan approval. This deadline can be extended on request in writing by the redeveloper in order to accommodate review by the historic commission. Well,
So that was just submitted, right?
the site plan was just submitted.
That was just submitted the other day.
Yeah,
He told me
so-
earlier.
that was, the site plan just came in Monday. Right?
Yeah.
That's right.
But it said it should have come in May.
Right, I don't know whether, any provision was made to extend that deadline, I will find out. We'll find out.
And I realize it's somewhat moved now, but I just wanna make sure that we're holding the developer accountable and making sure it sticks to deadlines, and I realize that that Borough wants the development to happen, so you wouldn't wanna push them away and give them a free pass, because he's not really locked in until pilot's in place. But, you know, this is just from a less informed perspective as a citizen. It seems like the last year, nothing has really happened on the project, and I don't know, the developer is stalling, hoping for better market conditions. Maybe last November, he was expecting different things to happen, and then, you know, building supplies got tariffed and labor is getting reported. Maybe that kind of has made things more expensive in the meantime rather than cheaper. I don't know.
I can just tell you from, that the site plan, putting together the site plan application is a very lengthy process in this case. I mean, I obviously wasn't involved in it directly, but, if you see the site plan application, how voluminous it is, the engineering considerations, the permitting, I know I'm trying to think of when they first approached our historic advisory commission, which was early on in the process. It was, I believe, months ago. So that process has been going on in the background, and we haven't been party to it, but it's been going on in the background, in parallel with the financial agreement and those negotiations. But it's a major undertaking, so it doesn't surprise me that it takes months to do. So I don't see that as an indication of, stalling or anything like that. I mean, I can't read other people's minds, but there's nothing that I see in the timeline of what's happened that would be suggestive of, in fact, probably to the opposite, which is a sense of, urgency on the part of the redeveloper to move the process forward. But again, there are other parties involved, because the redeveloper doesn't own the property, the redeveloper is the contract purchaser. And as I understand the way that works is all this comes together. If they have site plan approval and so on, then they actually do the transaction of purchasing the property. So there are other players involved that are outside of our transaction with the redeveloper. And that's all I can really say about it, but yeah.
I appreciate it.
But and again, I have the magical crystal ball, but I don't know of any the circumstances that suggest that they're not making a diligent effort to move forward, to put it that way.
I think it's a funny side effect of us trying to be super transparent. When we don't say anything, people assume we're not telling you something,
Right.
but like there's stuff that's going on that just doesn't involve this body.
Right.
And so we're not saying anything because it doesn't involve us, but there was negotiations that don't have anything to do with the town. There's, work on the side, there's planning board, historical board. So it's, I appreciate you asking, but it just seems to be like a funny assumption that we say so much that, well, we don't say something. There must be something to that. It's just, we don't have anything to say.
Well, and sort of at this point, we have the financial agreement, the pilot, that part of it, which is the part that's under the purview of council, but then the site plan application is planning board, which is sort of a parallel universe.
Yeah.
And so, once the redeveloper started that process of the site plan application, it has nothing to do with it, we don't even know, other than, oh, it's arrived, we got news that it was delivered. To the planning process, so, and we'll see where it all goes.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? The group? Oh. Do we have any great hands out there, Jerry?
We have one, Melissa Cookman on.
Right.
One second.
Do this every.
Hi, you should be able to hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great. So I'm just following up on that and seeing if I follow it. The audio for me is just really hard. So, what the question I have after what he asked is, if in fact they were supposed to have this done by May, and for whatever reason it was extended, that makes me uncomfortable, because there should be consequences. And I'm not saying we're not interested anymore. I'm not saying there should be some radical thing. I'm just suggesting. So if it just went along, and Sherry, I think I disagree with what you're saying. I understand that we can't possibly know everything that's going on. If we want that, we should run for council. I get that. But I do think that if this gentleman read that and saw, well, wait, it was supposed to happen in May, why didn't it May? That seems like a legitimate question to get the answer to.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
And we will get the answer.
Okay.
We said we were gonna.
Oh, no, we're definitely gonna circle back and have an answer.
Yeah.
Okay, because it just seems like there should be, I mean, this isn't the greatest way to start in my imagination, in my world. Of course, this isn't a project I'm in favor of, so I'm obviously gonna be biased about it. But I do think that kind of information is going to be really valuable to all of us. So thank you. Just wanted to make sure I was hearing what was hearing.
Thank you.
Very. Anybody else?
No other hands raised at the moment.
All right, if you're on the hands, so take a motion to close. The public.
I'll second.
Thank you. And I believe we can get a motion to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.